Welcome to Planet Mondo, where we dissect weird cinema. With the popularity of the disturbing movie Iceberg on Reddit, I figured I'd add my own touch and discuss my top 50 disturbing movies in my own personal opinion. In this video, we won't be going through the disturbing movie Iceberg since we don't want to crawl in the internet black hole, aka the dark web. We're going to focus mainly on movies that are accessible, and avoid the mixtape movies under titles such as BXW 9301 5000 MKA BLX, whatever the f. I personally have no interest in diving deep into the iceberg and visiting any of the lower tiers. However, I do enjoy disturbing cinema for the simple fact that it's the purest form of cinema. By that I mean there are no restrictions and nothing is forbidden. It's the one genre that seems to get the most emotion out of me by disturbing me to the core. Down to the motherfucking core. And to me that's the most fascinating aspect of disturbing cinema. Let's not waste any more time though, and let's get into our top 50 disturbing movies. Hit that like button and that bell while you're at it. Thanks. Number 50. Eraserhead. Directed by visionary and surrealist director David Lynch, is the 1977 masterpiece that brought the audiences to the edge of their seats. Shot beautifully in black and white, Eraserhead is disturbing in many ways that other films can't be. David Lynch manages to use his limited budget and settings to perfection. The claustrophobic apartment being the main setting of this film really made me feel uneasy when I first watched it. The soundtrack certainly doesn't help either. It's just a bunch of weird screech-like noises. You ever see Tetsuo? You know, the man made out of steel cables and wires and shit. Well, it almost sounds like Tetsuo was having a bang session without using any lube. Just a bunch of screeching in your ears, and that's nightmare fuel. Lynch is also able to tap into the fear that most of us can relate to, and that being parenthood. The paranoia and being unsure of security for another human life that can exhaust any parent. But David Lynch really decides to kick the f***ery up a few notches through introducing us to an alien-like baby. I mean, how could you not love this thing? This is what happens when David Lynch smokes one too many joints while living in Philadelphia. You get Eraserhead. And I'm thankful for it, simply for the fact that there is nothing like it. Hate it or love it, you will remember Eraserhead. You can almost smell David Lynch's Newport 100s on this film. That's how much of a Lynch touch this movie has. Number 49. Caligula. Basically a really messed up porno with over-the-top practical Roman Empire sets that probably should have been put to better use. This movie is hated by many, but I can only speak for myself and say I actually really enjoyed Caligula. Sure, it's super long and the orgy scenes could have been trimmed down by, let's say, I don't know, like 95%. But this movie is another one that stands on its own. It's one of the only somewhat mainstream titles that had real simulated sex scenes in it, with the money shot on everything. You even get to see Malcolm McDowell's O-face. And if that's not disturbing enough, I don't know what the f to tell you. This movie is taboo in many ways, including sexualizing women and using them as sexual objects, numerous X-rated orgies, and tons of gore. In fact, some really unique and clever deaths, including a drunk thief being forced to drink unthinkable amounts of wine, then being tied up and stabbed multiple times. The puncture wounds then leak out gallons of wine until the thief slowly dies. I'm not sure if this was an actual torture method used by Caligula or the Roman Empire, but it wouldn't surprise me. Another scene that stood out was a group of men being held captive by being buried up to their necks and having some sort of bulldozer on steroids looking objects run their heads over as they explode like watermelons at a Gallagher show. This is some you gotta see. Number 48. The Tin Drum. The Tin Drum is a movie about the childhood of a boy named Oscar during the Nazi regime. Early on in the film, Oscar is exposed to adultery, sex, and overall many other adult themes that no child at the age of 6 should be familiar with. His introduction to the filth of humanity at a young age made him never want to mature and ever grow old. He jumps off a building, and the accident somehow gives him the power to never physically mature. He soon becomes obsessed with his tin drum. He keeps it around like his shadow. It's clearly a form of therapy for Oscar to connect with a tin drum. It gets worse from here. Oscar's mom is seen cheating on his stepfather. Soon enough she becomes pregnant because, you know, that's how it happens. She assumes Oscar's growth stunt is payback from God for her sins and fears the next child will be born with the same condition. She decides to unfortunately end her life before going into labor. This leaves Oscar yet again alone, scarred, and a head full of traumatic thoughts. By this time, Oscar is 16 years old, but physically looks the same as he did at the age of 6. His father now marries a new girlfriend who happens to be the same age as Oscar. 16. Yeah, I know. Gross. The new girlfriend doesn't believe Oscar is really 16 and takes it as a joke. At night, she sometimes sleeps in Oscar's bed with him. And one night, Oscar's hormones kick in full throttle and he impregnates his new stepmom, who's actually the same age as him. Yeah, it's really f***ed up. And confusing, hence the reason that it made it to the top 50. Oh, and one more thing. Add a shit ton of Nazis to the mix too. There are tons of them in this one. Number 47. NECromantic. You know this is a fucked up list when we're at number 47 and we're already bringing up necrophilia into the game. No foreplay or anything, we're just going straight in for necrophilia. NECromantic and its sequel, NECromantic 2, are both directed by Jorg Buttgereit. And you knew his name had to have butt or ass or some kind of play in there with butt cheeks. There had to be just something. And no, this is not the only time that Jorg Buttgereit will appear on our top 50 list. Spoiler alert, I guess. Some consider this an art house movie, and some consider it to be just another attempt to cash in on the shock value. I can't say I'm a fan of this movie, nor do I really understand the cult following that it's gotten over the years, but I certainly understand why some people are disturbed by it. After all, it's a movie about having a fetish for fucking dead bodies. Come the fuck on. Actually, don't come on anything. Gross. Number 46. Luther the Geek. Originally distributed through Troma Films, Luther the Geek is another cheaply made exploitation movie from the double feature era that found its way into my collection thanks to the folks at Vinegar Syndrome. It's about a psychopathic killer that likes to bite his victims to death. Luther likes to bite people. 95% of the movie in itself isn't quite disturbing, but there are a few scenes that involve animal cruelty, including a scene where Luther literally bites the head off of a chicken. Yeah, I'm all set on that. I'm sure we've all had our fair share of chicken McNuggets or whatever, but I have no interest in revisiting this movie after watching that scene. I'm good. Number 45, Old Boy. I'm going to try to keep Old Boy completely spoiler-free as much as I can, because I honestly think it's a masterpiece of a film and everyone should go out of their way to check this out. This movie itself has a beautiful cinematography and one of the most impressive one-shot fight scenes ever filmed. What's disturbing about it? Well, it's incest. I'll leave it at that. Animal cruelty and anything with incest and kids, that's a no-go for me. Old Boy isn't disturbing to the point of not being able to revisit the movie or anything like that, because quite frankly, I've watched it several times, but I figured it deserved a spot on the top 50 because it is a taboo subject. Number 44, The Wicker Man, the OG. Nicolas Cage, I love you and Mandy, but we gotta get you and all them bees the f*** up out of here for now. The original Wicker Man is the godfather of folk horror, and has influenced a new trend that we're starting to see in today's horror scene, a resurgence in folk horror in the 2020s. We saw it with Ari Aster's Midsommar, unfortunately the remake of The Wicker Man itself, and of course Robert Eggers' The Witch, and most recently, Netflix even cashed in on the folk horror scene by releasing The Sacrifice. Why is Wicker Man number 44 on the list? Well, to start out, it's based on a cult that does a human sacrifice for the sake of their crops for the sky and rain gods. If stuffing a stranger alongside dozens of animals in a gigantic scarecrow-like figure made out of sticks and hay and burning it to the ground doesn't unsettle you, well, I don't know. I should probably seek some help, though. I have no answers for you. Number 43, The Cell. One of the most underrated mainstream horror movies of all time. I feel like if A24 was around in the early 2000s, cinephiles would be saying that this movie has A24 vibes all over it. The Cell stars Jennifer Lopez in one of her actual good roles. Rare, but indeed possible. She plays a detective that gains access through a new technology to literally step into the mind of serial killers to potentially save lives, see the reasoning behind their killing sprees, and etc. The reason why this is disturbing? Oh, I don't know, some devil dude hanging from the ceiling by hooks while he's jerking off should be enough, no? Well, if that's your sort of thing, I got good news for you, because the Blu-ray release is in fact uncut, and who knows, might even include him climaxing. Yep, that's totally a thing. You are welcome. Number 42, Hereditary. Ari Aster's 2018 modern horror masterpiece is disturbing in the sense of realism. Demons and cults. We've seen it before, however, we've never seen it portrayed like this on film. Ari Aster was capable of bringing realism to this movie by basing it all around mental illness. That's what's scary to me. Not demons and possessions or witches riding brooms or any of that, but a demon that someone with mental illness actually sees or believes in. That is some scary shit. Also, King Paimon is probably one of the most terrifying, quote-unquote, holy statues I've ever seen a cult kneel down to, with or without heads. Quentin Tarantino has a foot fetish, and Ari Aster has a beheading fetish. It's totally a thing, I promise that. If you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend it. It's essentially this generation's Rosemary's Baby or The Exorcist. It's up there for me. Definitely go out of your way to check it out. Number 41, Itchy the Motherfucking Killer. Enough said. If you're a fan of gore and Yakuza films, Itchy the Killer is the perfect combination for you. The sadistic torture methods used by Itchy in this film, from needles to throwing hot grease and much more, are truly one of a kind. I truly believe Japanese deathmatch wrestler Jun Kasai was motivated by Itchy the Killer. Takashi Miike is the director of Itchy the Killer and has a long list of disturbing movies including Audition and many others, so if you're a fan of this movie, definitely check out his other works. Quentin Tarantino's got a foot fetish, Ari Aster's got a whole beheading thing going on, and this guy, well, he really likes boobs lactating weird out of them. Typically some sort of goo. I don't know. Japan gets weird. I don't know. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe so you can check out part 4 of my Disturbing Movies videos. Also, hit that like button and comment below. Give me some recommendations. I would love to check out some other movies that I may have missed.